Through the eyes of a child, the world is big. With their toys, they make it smaller. Vivid imaginations shape reality, while heroes come to life. In those moments, a child's passions are forged. Though they grow up, their toys will just get bigger, and their ideas even greater.
I remember this vividly. The neighbor girls' boyfriends pull up on their Harley Davidson. I heard that thump, 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 and that started my addiction to engines. I got sucked into drag racing. I read everything I could about it and was really interested in motorsports. My senior year of high school, we built a sportsman car for Jefferson, raced Jefferson 81, 82, and part of 83. Then I moved to Beaver Dam in 1986 with a job change. Got pulled into the dirt track world at the Dodge County Fairgrounds Speedway. That's where I started getting into the engine building stage of my life. I did write a term paper in high school about how I wanted to own a speed shop. I had a plan and a dream, and I'm living it. I'm Jim Krahn, owner-operator, Krahn Performance Racing. I've been doing this for 40 years, and I like telling stories if people want to listen. I got a lot of cool stories. I actually have never wanted to drive a race car. I get my enjoyment out of making stuff go fast. I'm heavy into snowmobiling and snowmobiling racing. Every vehicle I own is modified. My lawnmower's modified, my weed eater, we always joke I got a big bore in my weed eater. I can't leave anything alone. I'm always looking for ways to make stuff work better, more efficient, make more horsepower. It's all about horsepower. When I moved to Beaver Dam, I lived in a rented house, built my first race car for dirt out in the driveway with a treble light. Worked on it at night, would fall asleep on the creeper, wake up when the sun came up, go back to work on it. Built the engine in the kitchen, built the carburetor in the sink. Raced like 6 nights and totaled the car. The next year, I hooked up with Butch Behrendt. We built a brand new car. Butch, he was supposed to drive it, but all my family was coming down to watch. I go, Butch, I want to just drive this once, just this once.
Got the car built and he said, I want to drive. And he went out there and kept going faster and faster until he spun out and into the telephone pole, and we had to put a whole front end on it.
And that's the last time I drove competitively. Well, if you can call it competitively.
Racing's a disease. Once it's in your system, it never really goes away. I raced pure stocks, the hobby stocks, sportsman cars, asphalt late models, A stock, and then the VMC modifieds. The first 43 car, the Monte Carlo, Jim built an engine that he got the kit out of California. Remember that? It was like a 391 or something like that. It was. Yeah, and it was, I think it was a little challenging for him because he had to do some grinding to the block and things like that. But that motor was fast. I mean, that was, it ended up being for radical as it was, that's one that went together in the kitchen.
Me and Jim lived together many years after his cousin moved out, and we built many engines in the kitchen, just in our rental house. But it was crazy time. So, especially getting him out of the kitchen.
So why the kitchen?
The kitchen was the cleanest room in the house.
Racing for us was about building the cars and the competition.
And camaraderie.
Yeah.
At that time, a lot of guys never changed an engine at the racetrack between races if they had to, but to see Jim's, that was right up his alley to try to do that, to try to get that
If
done.
he could, yeah, if you say he can't, he could.
We
He would try to
figure out
do
a
it.
way to do it.
We'd have the tow truck there lifting the motor out and slapping another one. That was between hot laps and...
Yeah, we changed engines in cars, and since nobody ever did it before, it was like, you guys are nuts. I mean, that was like the opportunity to show what we could do.
We always had a spare along,
Yeah.
you know.
Denny Baye was my mentor. I met him in '92. He was crewing for Kurt Jordan, and they were kicking our ass. At that point in my life, I didn't know anything about modifieds. We were just getting into them. And I've always say, if you're getting your ass kicked, go talk to people that are kicking your ass. Denny Baye was easily approachable, and he would help anybody. In fact, he was the modified guru. More people won more races with help from him than anybody I can even think of. He's my hero, he was my mentor, and he just passed away a couple weeks back. But that was, yeah. '95 was a huge year for me personally and professionally. Started the business. My son Jesse James was born. We won the first 1,000 to win modified show in the state of Wisconsin that I know of, out at the fairgrounds. And we took Craig Priewe to the Super Nationals and got into the IMCA Super Nationals. Jesse was 1 year old. My wife Joy decided she was going to race. She felt that in order to spend some time with me, she better get a race car. There was a group of 3 gals that were going to get together and buy a car, and they were all going to take turns racing, and it ended up just Joy raced. So Joy raced in 1996. 1997, she took the year off, and then I built her a brand new car in 1998. She ran in 1998. She won a feature at the fairgrounds. We've been married 29 years. I have raced all 29 years. To have a woman behind you is huge. When I first started working on race cars a lot, I kicked Joy out of the garage into the house, and I worked on cars in the garage and house, and I built motors out there. Fall of '94, I built this shop, and Joy bought me the hoist. I started working out of here full-time in '95. Sold rims, tires, shocks, built engines, built transmissions, built rear ends, built race cars for a while. Anything we could do to go racing. now just pretty much sell parts and give technical support. I guess one of my strong suits is finding stuff that people can't get other places because of my connections in the industry. But there was a time where I was building cars and building engines. What this shop was about is helping race car drivers and try to help them be successful. My attitude's always been not how much stuff can I sell, it's how can I sell them the right stuff so they're not buying 4 carburetors before they get the right one, and save them money so that they can keep racing and keep the sport alive, because pushing product out the door and just selling product isn't going to keep the sport alive. I got into it for the love of the sport, not how can I make money. In 1995, Denny Baye asked me if I would help work with Krahn Priewe. Right around that time, I got involved with Schraufnagel. At one time, actually, both Jay and Craig worked out of this shop. Won a lot of races with those guys. Jay had traction control, and it was all in his right foot. 100% mechanical traction control in his foot. He was the smoothest on the throttle of anybody I ever worked with. He raced 5 nights a week running for a national championship, you know. That was brutal. Craig was a little more on the wild side and took chances. He'd start dead last at the fairgrounds and he'd come out of turn 4 and he'd shoot down that straightaway and pass half the field on opening lap. When there was a hole, he could find it. There goes Craig. Oh, Jesus, how do you do that? That was the thing that was really neat about him. First lap of the feature, Dodge County Fairgrounds Speedway. Craig flips end over end down the front stretch at the fairgrounds on the very first lap of the feature. They bring his car in on a tow truck, one hooked up to each end. They bring his car in to the pits. I have 4 jack stands on the ground. They set his car on 4 jack stands, and we feverishly work on the car. There were no cautions, and we got him out for the last lap. And we got a standing ovation. That's the determination that I have to race. If the car breaks, if something goes wrong, I will keep working on the car until the checkered flag. And if we only get out for the last lap, that's what we get out for.
Whatever I did, I always wanted to be the best. Racing, hunting, doing things for other people, anything for my wife. Just never settled for a partial job. It always thrived to be the best you can be. We spent so many late nights in that shop, endless hours. You know, we'd get done racing at the fairgrounds and we'd come back to the shop and we'd work on the car, changing motors to go to Seymour the next day. And we'd get a couple hours sleep when we were headed back north. I trusted Jimmy and Denny 100% when I got in that car, that I knew that car was going to be the top-notch winning car out there, and it was up to me to put it in victory lane.
Beaver Dam Raceway. Craig always liked to run high up on the wall. Coming out of 4, the guys on the bottom like to drift up. And they stuffed him in the wall, and his car was actually hanging in the fence. And it was a Wednesday. We brought the car back here. We actually had a frame jig here. Pulled the motor out. Craig called in sick. We were a lot younger and we had more help, and we restubbed the car. We started Wednesday night when we got back, and we had the car locked and loaded to go racing on Friday. Engine's going sour. Guy put us on a stopwatch. We pulled the motor out of the car between the heat and the feature, 20 minutes. Pulled it out, had it running, won the feature. I don't quit.
We had the components for success. They were respect and a good work ethic, with good people, knowledge, and equipment. When you're in sync together like that as a team, you trust one another. You never second guess. People are always trying to find your edge. Denny and Jimmy would like to be jokesters a lot. And before we'd go out and stuff, Denny would take Coca-Cola and he'd dump it over the tires. People would start talking about, why are they doing that? When you were winning and you were fast, you're going to be considered you're cheating, and you do what you can to be fast.
We all just had that feeling something was gonna go down that night. We didn't know what, but Jimmy had all the front end parts laid out in the trailer, ready to go.
I didn't know that Jimmy had told my wife that if something happens, make sure you keep him in the car. Do not let him out of the car. They had everything ready to go. And of course, we had a wreck after a first caution on the first lap, and then came in and dumped the whole front of the car off, the suspension and that. We put the other stuff on, went back out, came from the back to the front, and I think we settled in on the top 2 or 3, and panels were ready to fly off the car.
Jim knew as much about the mechanics and the car as he knew about the driver, and knew that Craig needed to stay in that car and be able to focus in order to win that championship that night.
When you have children, you hope that you're going to have some common interests. Having a son that has the same passion you have is really cool. When I worked with other drivers, you couldn't tell them you're going to race 8 days a week, because they say, you're nuts, we're not doing that. With my son, I can say that. Come on, boy, we're racing 8 days a week. Sometimes we'd race 2 or 3 nights a week, and that's what makes you better. Racing's a lot like life. There's good times, there's bad times, and how you handle those things is going to help you with your life, because you're going to go through good times and bad times and trials and tribulations. It's really neat when that's your kid out there doing the things he's doing, and seeing that your kid's got the talent that you don't have. We're having fun. We get along with 99.7% of our competitors. We laugh, we talk, and it's really a neat deal.
I wouldn't have been the racer I came to be if it wouldn't have been for Jim. He made me a better person through the years of just understanding not only through racing about life in general, and respecting other people, respect other people's equipment. KPR was our race world. Without Jim and Joy, our race program wouldn't have thrived as good as it did. There's not a person as dedicated and works as hard in racing as Jimmy does.
Jimmy was willing to help anybody on the track that needed anything. If he saw somebody that needed help that came in with a flat tire, he was running for their jack. If they needed a part, he'd give them a part. He was that guy that would help everybody. He wanted to see everybody succeed.
Life is competitive for me, and it should be for everybody. I can't quit. I want to win. I want to win hot laps. I want to win the heat. I want to win the feature. I want to win everything. As long as Jesse races, I'm racing. Whether it's 10 years, 5 years, 50 years, 100 years, who knows what tomorrow's going to bring. I got so many friends in the sport. I want to run that to the end. That's what it's about. People.